Welcome back to Epic Reddit Files, the home of the internet's most shocking, dramatic, and unbelievable stories. If you think you've got family issues, you might want to sit down for this one, because today's story takes the concept of a toxic family to a criminal level. Imagine sitting at your own birthday dinner, surrounded by your relatives, only to realize that your mother is plotting a break-in at your home while you're eating your cake. This is the story of a woman named Elena, a secret hidden in an attic, and a revenge so cold it froze an entire family out of existence. Buckle up, hit that subscribe button, and let's get into the story. My name is Elena, I just turned 30, and if you think this story ends with forgiveness and a group hug, you're very much mistaken. I always knew my mother, Victoria, loved control more than she loved people, but I never thought she'd choose a felony charge over a conversation. It all started at what was supposed to be a truce, my 30th birthday dinner. I had paid for everything. The private room at the Italian restaurant, the vintage wine my father, Robert, preferred, and even the custom cake. I told myself that maybe this milestone would be different. Maybe they would finally see me as an adult, and not just a pawn in their social chess games. I was wrong. We were halfway through the appetizers when the atmosphere shifted. My brother Julian was sitting across from me, looking nervous. My dad was swirling his wine, avoiding eye contact. But it was my mother who shattered the peace. She leaned over to my father, not realizing, or perhaps not caring, that the acoustics in the room carried her whisper perfectly over the clinking of silverware. While she thought I was distracted by the waiter, I heard her hiss, "Tell Julian to go now. While she's stuck here, he needs to change the locks at her apartment. Before she gets home." My blood turned to ice. I sat there, fork halfway to my mouth, paralyzed. Change my locks? Why on earth would my mother want to lock me out of my own home while I was sitting right here paying for her dinner? My father didn't even blink. He just nudged Julian and muttered, "Go, do it now. Say you forgot your wallet in the car." I didn't react. I couldn't. I just smiled, a tight, painful smile, and watched my brother stand up. Julian looked sick. He muttered an excuse about needing to make a phone call and practically ran out of the restaurant. His car keys jingled like a warning bell. I stayed. I ate my dinner. I listened to my mother criticize my dress and my job, all while my heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. I knew something sinister was happening, but I had to play the long game. An hour later, Julian returned. But he didn't look like a man who had successfully completed a mission. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. He walked back into the private room, paler than the white tablecloths. He didn't sit down. My mother's voice was sharp when she asked, "Well, is it done?" Julian swallowed hard, his hands trembling by his sides. "Mom," he whispered, "I couldn't get in." My father snapped at him immediately, asking what he meant, reminding him he had the spare key. Julian shook his head, his voice shaking so bad everyone stopped eating. "No," he said, "I couldn't get in because there is police tape across her door. There are flashing lights everywhere." An officer stopped me on the sidewalk. The room went dead silent. The air turned electric, cold and sharp. My mother's face, usually composed and painted with expensive makeup, drained of all color. "Police?" she choked out. "What happened?" Before Julian could answer, my phone buzzed on the mahogany table. The screen lit up, illuminating the dark room. It was an unknown number, but the preview message was visible to everyone. It read, "Ms. Vance, this is Detective Miller. We need you at your residence immediately. There has been a breach." I stood up, the legs of my chair screeching against the floorboards. My mother jumped, asking what was going on with a quiver in her voice that sounded like pure fear. Not fear for me, but fear for herself. I didn't answer her. I grabbed my purse, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "I don't know, Mother, but I intend to find out." Leaving the restaurant, the night air felt like shattered glass against my skin. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel, but my mind was razor sharp. If there was police tape at my home, and my mother had just tried to lock me out of it, the two were connected. When I pulled up to my apartment complex, it looked like a scene from a movie. Red and blue lights painted the brick walls in chaotic strobes. 2 patrol cars were blocking the entrance. A uniformed officer stepped forward as I approached and confirmed my identity. He told me they received a silent alarm notification and a neighbor report of a forced entry. My door had been compromised, and they had secured the scene. I asked if anything was taken, my voice sounding hollow to my own ears. He told me they weren't sure yet, but they had apprehended a suspect inside. My stomach dropped. I asked who it was. The officer hesitated before asking if I knew a man named Elias Thorne. I froze. Elias was a handyman my parents used for their rental properties, a shady guy who did off-the-books work. I told the officer I knew him, that my parents hired him. The officer nodded slowly and told me they found him in my living room with a bag of tools and a brand new deadbolt lock kit. But he wasn't just changing locks. He was tearing the place apart, looking for something. Just then, a man in a trench coat walked over. Detective Miller. He led me up the stairs to see the damage. My front door was splintered near the frame. Inside, my sanctuary was violated. Drawers were pulled out. Books were thrown on the floor. But the most chilling thing was the photos. Every framed picture of me and my 4-year-old son, Leo, had been placed face down on the table. It was a psychological attack. He wasn't here for jewelry, Detective Miller said, pointing to a silver laptop that had been ignored on the couch. He was here for paperwork, and he left this. On the coffee table sat a plain white envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with text printed from a computer. It read, "Tell your mother the secrets in the attic don't stay buried." I stared at the paper. This wasn't from Elias. Elias was just the muscle. This was a message. I looked at the detective, my voice trembling with rage, and told him everything. I told him my mother tried to send my brother here tonight to change the locks. She wanted me locked out. She wanted Elias to find something before I came home. Miller looked at me, his eyes narrowing, and asked what she was looking for. And then it hit me. The realization crashed into me like a freight train. A month ago, I had been helping my parents clear out their old attic. I found a box labeled Tax Archives. I had peeked inside just out of curiosity. I saw deeds to properties I didn't recognize, bank accounts in the Cayman Islands, and most terrifyingly, documents with my name on them. I hadn't put it together then. I thought maybe they were trust funds. But now I knew. She was looking for the evidence. They had been using my identity. The next morning, the storm had cleared, but the war had just begun. I woke up to 15 missed calls from my mother and 7 from my father. Detective Miller called me at 9 a.m. to tell me they traced a wire transfer to Elias Thorne. It came from a shell account, but the IP address led straight to my parents' home office. He said they had enough to bring them in for questioning regarding the break-in, but if I wanted to nail them for everything, they needed those documents. I lied and told him I had them. I didn't have the physical box. I had left it at their house. But I had taken photos of every single page on my phone that day in the attic. I told him I had digital copies, and he told me to bring them in. But first, I needed closure. I needed to look her in the eye one last time. I sent my mother a text that said, "Dinner, my place, 7 p.m. Come alone, or the police get the rest of the files." She replied instantly, saying she would be there. At 7 sharp, the knock came. My door, now temporarily fixed with plywood, creaked open. My mother stood there, dressed in a Chanel suit, looking like she was attending a board meeting, not visiting the daughter she had just victimized. She stepped inside, wrinkling her nose at the sawdust on the floor. She told me I shouldn't have involved the police, that it was a family matter. I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "A family matter?" I asked. "You hired a criminal to break into my home. You tried to lock me out so you could steal evidence." She sat on the edge of my couch, crossing her legs. She tried to use that manipulative, soft voice she had perfected over the years. She said they were protecting me. She said I didn't understand how complex my father's business was, and that if those papers got out, they would lose everything. I pulled out my phone and hit record openly, setting it on the table between us. I asked her if she meant the properties bought under my social security number, the offshore accounts hiding millions in unpaid taxes, all under my name. I told her that wasn't protecting me. That was framing me. Her mask slipped. For a second, she looked terrified. She admitted they did what they had to do to preserve the family legacy. She said I was supposed to just not look, that I was supposed to trust them. I felt tears stinging my eyes as I told her I did trust them for 30 years. And they repaid me by destroying my credit, putting me at risk of prison, and sending a thug to terrify my son's mother. She stood up abruptly, her face hardening. She threatened that if I turned those photos in, I would be an orphan. She said they would go to prison and asked if I wanted to be alone. I looked at the woman who gave birth to me. I looked at the face-down photos of my son that I had turned back up. I told her softly that I was already alone. I had been alone in this family my whole life. The only difference was that tomorrow I would be free. She glared at me, her eyes full of venom, and told me I would regret this. I smiled faintly and said maybe, but at least the regret would be mine, not a debt she forced me to carry. Then I pointed to the door and told her to get out. She left without another word. The door clicked shut, and the silence that followed was the heaviest, most beautiful thing I had ever heard. The next morning, I walked into the Financial Crimes Division. I handed Detective Miller a USB drive containing every photo, every text message, and the recording of my mother's confession from the night before. It took 3 weeks for the hammer to drop. The headlines were everywhere, reporting that prominent real estate developers were arrested in a multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. My parents' assets were frozen. The bank seized their mansion. My father took a plea deal to avoid a maximum sentence, throwing my mother under the bus in the process. My mother is currently awaiting trial, facing charges of fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit burglary. As for me, I changed my name. I moved to a different city with my son Leo. Yesterday, I received a letter from the prison. It was from my mother. I didn't open it. I dropped it into the shredder, watched the paper turn into confetti, and then I made pancakes for my son. They taught me a valuable lesson, my parents. They taught me that blood is related, but loyalty is earned. And sometimes, the only way to win the game is to flip the board and walk away.